I'll tell you one thing that we do and have been doing it for years, and it works really well for us. And when I say this, a lot of people that are in the marketing world kind of cringe,
Okay.
but it works. And there's a couple of caveats. I have been running giveaways every month for years now, and so this is one of our prizes: a wool Pendleton blanket. Pendleton blankets are really synonymous in the powwow world. Everybody uses them, has them, and that resonates with our audience. That attracts people in our audience, as opposed to I've done some giveaways where we give away an iPad or a gift card.
Oh, I
That
see.
doesn't attract people in your sphere, right?
Yeah.
So when you find a prize that works for your audience and you know it's going to attract your audience, giveaways are a great way. But for me, that has been an incredible way to draw in more people outside of that are already following you.
Well, hi there, and welcome to Side Hustle Hero, the podcast that inspires action and helps you to grow your side hustle into a thriving income stream. I'm your host, Joan Posivy. Imagine having a thriving online community rooted in your side hustle. It'd be both fun and profitable. Better yet, want to know how to build one? In this episode, we're joined by Paul Gowder, the creative force behind Powwows, a vibrant space dedicated to learning about and celebrating Native American culture. Paul's journey began with a simple intention: to share what he was learning about powwows. But as more and more people started asking him questions and connecting with one another, a community naturally emerged. Fast forward to today, and Powwows boasts a social media following of over 1 million people. So unsurprisingly, Paul's top revenue streams come from advertising and sponsorships. But he's also tapped into product sales, affiliate marketing, and Patreon. But the revenue source that really stood out to me is his approach to live streaming powwow events. You see, not only is Paul paid to cover these events, but he also structures deals that allows him to take the content and repurpose it by sharing it in various forms to his community, which brings even more people into the fold. Brilliant, right? You'll hear amazing insights and actionable strategies for growing and engaging your online community. He unpacks for us his most successful online giveaway. From using contests to boost engagement, to the way he incentivizes people to explore his content deeper, Paul's tips are invaluable for building a dedicated following. But before all that, if our chats are sparking your entrepreneurial spirit and providing valuable insights, consider giving the show a caffeinated thumbs up by shooting me over a virtual coffee. It's a real thing over at sidehustlehero.com/support. Thank you so much. Now here's my conversation with someone who truly understands how to build community, the founder of Powwows, Paul Gowder. Welcome, Paul.
Hello, thank you so much.
Well, you're the founder and leader of the online community known as Powwows. How do you define community, and tell us a little bit about yours?
So for me, community is a group of people who feel connected and have some type of shared belief. So in powwows.com, when I first started the website, it was people that were in powwow dancers, powwow singers, and they felt that connection. They felt that togetherness because they were all doing this thing together. It's part of their life. It's part of their culture. As we start expanding, it's more now of people that just want to know more about the culture, who want to go to their first powwow or, those kind of things. So, it can continue to evolve. And for us, it's grown worldwide now. But yeah,
Nice.
it's just having a group of people that feels that connection in some way.
I should probably backtrack a little bit and ask you to define too. Tell us what a powwow is.
Yeah, sure. So powwows are Native American celebrations. They are held for a variety of reasons. You'll see people, some tribes will have them as annual homecomings. A lot of them now are competitions. People hold them for graduations and birthdays and anniversaries, or mourning the lost. So all kinds of reasons. But when you go to a powwow, it's like going to, like here in the South, we have festivals for everything. We celebrate the Okra Strut and the Chitlin Festival. And we got them for everything right down here. So it's the same kind of thing. It's the Native American festival or cultural celebration. And if you go, it's a complete immersion into the culture with the singing, the dancing, the food, the crafts, and they're open to the public. So I encourage you, if you're out there and you're in the US or Canada, there's a powwow happening somewhere near you during the year. So find one and go visit.
I actually, before our conversation, looked at your website, powwows.com, and there was a drop-down menu there of
Yeah.
searching for powwows local to you. And I actually did find some in my area, which was
Oh,
very cool.
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
Well, let's talk about monetization for a moment. What are the various revenue sources for powwows?
I guess our main one is advertising. So we're part of an advertising network as well as working with companies and brands directly. So that's probably our main source of revenue. We also offer live streaming services to powwows. So we have a
Oh,
team
wow.
that, or actually a couple teams now that handle that, and we go out to powwows and actually stream their events. And so it's great marketing for the powwow, and then a service that we can provide them. And then, there's all kinds of other ways we monetize. We sell merchandise, we sell products, started doing some digital products as well. Yeah, we have Patreon. Gosh, what else do we do? Affiliate
Well,
marketing. I mean, yes, but our two main are advertising and live streaming.
okay. What percentage of revenue would you say would be the advertising and sponsors?
Yeah, gut feeling it's probably 70, maybe 80%, but somewhere in that.
And probably another 10 or 15% for the live stream?
Right.
Okay. That's really interesting that you added the live stream component to that. How did that come about?
But I mean, I started powwows.com on accident. It wasn't this was never meant to be a business. Same thing with live
Okay.
streaming. Yeah. In 2004, I had a friend that was on a powwow committee in Oklahoma, and she called me up and said, "Hey, she at the time she was really into rodeos, and she said all these local rodeos are doing this live streaming thing. Is that something you can do? And we're going to fly you out here, and you're going to do it." Like, I have no idea how to do it. No, no clue. I mean, and in 2004, we didn't have tools like YouTube and
No,
everything that we do
no.
now. But we figured it out and we streamed that first powwow, and from there it just grew. Again, around community, it's the people online watching and interacting that really make it successful. Now we'll be at a powwow, and the MC on the mic will, he'll start talking about how many texts and calls and messages he's getting because people are at home watching. And so, yeah, it's
Oh,
really cool
wow.
to see that connection and see that people are really interacting.
Well, how did powwows start?
It was back in 1996. I was in grad school getting my master's degree, and had some free time. And I love tinkering with computers. Even in middle school, high school, I love playing with computers, building, learning basic programming and all kinds of other stuff like that. And when the whole HTML thing came out, I was like, oh, this looks fun. Let's do this.
Right.
Let's try it. And so I built two web pages at the time. One was on vintage Star Wars toy collecting. Remember, this is 1996.
Yes.
There wasn't all the marketing and Disney behind it. So that website is actually still sitting out there in its 1996 state. It never grew, never did anything. The other one I built, though, at the time was I was first learning about powwows myself and going to them. I had friends taking me to powwows, teaching me how to make the regalia, do all of that kind of thing. So I just built some pages about the stuff I was learning. And it was more of like, hey,
Oh,
this is really cool. I just learned about this, and then, writing about it. Never expected people to read it, but it was in the beginning, again, community. It was people coming, asking me questions and wanting ways to connect with each other. And so that was one of the first real features I added to the website was a forum and a way for people to talk and chat and things like that. And
right.
that's really where the heart of powwows.com is, and it's still today.
That was its beginnings.
Yeah,
Give us some idea, if you would, the scope, the number of people involved in your community.
sure. I will say, going back to how I define community, one of the things I always tell people, I don't define community as a Facebook group, right? Your community can use Facebook group, but I don't, I define anybody who is touching our ecosystem in any way as part of the community. So,
Mm,
so numbers, our Facebook page has just over 1 million followers. We have 3 Facebook groups. I think the main one's at about 125,000. Our buy sell trade groups at about 75. And then we have one on genealogy. I think it's at 12 or 15,000. Our
yeah.
YouTube is at 95,000, getting oh so closer to that 100,000 and getting our first YouTube plaque. So please go hit subscribe.
Fun.
About 100,000 on our email list. Yeah.
Congratulations, Paul.
Thank you. Thank
But
you.
that's built up over the years.
25 plus years. Yes.
But now you're also teaching people how to build a community. Walk us through, if you would, someone that is doing that from scratch. Imagine I've got this idea to build a community of people wanting to, oh, I don't know, start and grow their side hustle. Where would I even start?
The first thing I always tell people is one, let's make sure that we have the right mindset going into it.
Okay.
And so everything we do, whether it's writing a post on Facebook, replying more importantly to a post on Facebook, email, whatever, we're going to do that from our voice. We're going to be authentic to ourselves. We're going to talk directly to one single person, and we're going to treat them like they are part of our community. And if we do that across all of the places that we put out content, people will start to feel that sense of community. The next thing is, though, you have to identify, like, who is your community? And sometimes at the beginning that's hard. Sometimes it can be really broad. Maybe you'll niche down over time, or maybe it's the opposite. Like for me, at the beginning, it was just powwow dancers and singers, and then we broadened over time. But it's finding out what those people are, who they are, and then what are they looking for? Are they asking questions, or do they just want to be connected and chat and interact with each other? Are they looking to you for answers and guidance? And then you serve them, right? Going back again to that first forum I built, it was that they just wanted to communicate and interact with each other.
Okay.
A lot of the times I may start a discussion. I may have, put something out there for discussion, but a lot of it was, I just got out of the way, right? I provided the tool and the people came and discussed it. So those are the first two steps, I would say.
Right. And at that point, you were not charging.
Yeah.
Right. Do you charge for those like groups or membership? Do you have that component?
No. All of our content is free. The only thing is our Patreon community that has kind of a paywall in front of it, but everything else is open and free.
Ah, okay. And what are you offering on the other side of the paywall that the non-paying community wouldn't receive?
So that's just on Patreon, and on our Patreon community, they get a little bit of previews sometimes of what we have going on.
Okay.
We also do some Zoom calls, so the Patreon community we actually get on a Zoom and have face-to-face discussions and those kind of things. Some of our YouTube videos go out a little earlier to our supporters and things like that.
Yeah.
I consider Patreon part of our community, but I also integrate them into the other things we do. So I try not to have that as another separate community.
Yes.
As much as I can, right?
Right. It sounds like you've got a big enough one now to look after. Anyway, you mentioned that ability for the community to communicate with one another, to chat. Do you have a favorite platform out there now to do that?
Facebook groups are a great place for the community to interact with each other.
Okay.
For me, my preferred platform is email, because I get to, when I write a message and when I send out, and I tell a story or I'm talking about something going on, I know that everybody on the newsletter is going to get it. To me, it's incredibly frustrating when I'm trying to interact with my audience, whether it's on the Facebook page or a Facebook group, and I don't know who's going to see it. Even in the group,
You're touching on the algorithms, you mean?
Yeah, you don't know. So for me, I love interacting on the email list. There was an email that went out on one of our automated sequences yesterday, and I woke up this morning with like 25 emails responding to that. That to me is where I love interacting with people.
Yes.
It's more of a one-on-one thing, but it's a great place, and I know that I'm going to have a real conversation with people, and I'm not depending on anybody else brokering that for me.
So maybe if you were starting it today, you might look for, in addition to the email, because I totally understand that, for the place to chat with people, something like a Discord channel.
Yeah, that's something I haven't done with powwows.com. That's another thing I would advise people when they first get started is you want to try all the social platforms and all the social tools and find out where your audience is and then lean into it. For us, it's Facebook. That's where the majority of our audience is as far as social media goes. And so we just lean into that, and that's where I put the most resources in. A lot of people they find that their audience is on Discord and likes that. I was talking to somebody the other day, and their community is all on LinkedIn. Great. Lean into that.
Yes. And having said all that, and to grow your email list, because that's yours. Whereas the other platforms that you mentioned, that's out of your control. Especially, you made a good point about the Facebook. You don't know who's going to see it, even if you post it to your, like, a business page.
Yeah, you have no idea.
Hmm. Well, what have you seen to be the most effective ways to attract new members to a community?
We do it in a few different ways. I mean, one, probably the biggest thing that gets people into our community is our live video. And then, of course, taking that live video and repurposing it into smaller YouTube clips, reels, and things like that. It's taking that content that you have and that we know that our target audience wants to see and putting out as much of that as we can. And then the same thing as, when I go to a powwow, I'll come home with 500 photos. And so I'll publish those and share those, and that will get people in. The second thing, and again, this goes back to find out what your community wants and provide that. And you
Yep.
mentioned it already. It's our powwow calendar. People want to find powwows. And so we are the resource for that. We try to, we list as many powwows as we can. And so, yeah, then that people find us through Google searches looking for powwows in their area. That's probably the other way that people kind of get into our sphere.
So there's the drop-down menu that people can look to find a powwow, but then you've
Yes.
also got broader listings with photos for them. So those would be part of the paid ad?
No, our calendar is free. It's free for people to use, and it's free for people to list their information. No, we're not charging anything for that.
Oh, okay. So the poster or the graphic that I see for the event plus the write-up, that's all free for the...
It's all free. Right.
That's nice. Because like you said, that's drawing people to the website.
Yes. Again, when I started out, that was one of the things the community wanted is, and still to this day, powwows they're paper-based, right? People are going to events and handing out paper flyers, which is great. It's a good way to promote your thing. But once you leave there, and for people outside and maybe who didn't see that at the last event, there wasn't a way for you to find out when the next powwow was over in Oklahoma if you were going,
Yeah.
So that's one of the things we bridged early on as a way to kind of have that centralized calendar.
Mm-hmm. Now, you mentioned the video and then repurposing that for social media. Are you referring to the live streams that you do, or that's you going out
Yes.
to that's the live streams? Okay.
Yes, right. So like when we go to a live stream, we'll stream a powwow a day at a powwow, maybe 12 or 15 hours. And so we'll stream that entire day, but then we'll take that and we'll clip it up into each song. Or if there was a contest, if it was contest powwow, we'll take every contest session and we'll break those up into, so we may come home with 500, 600 videos from a powwow that we'll put out on our YouTube channel over the course of a few months.
But the client is paying you to do that, right?
Correct.
So somehow you also retain ownership of the...
Yeah, I mean, it gets confused. There are
Of the
some powwows
content?
that want dual ownership, and there's some powwows that we send them the source files so that they can use it too. But yeah, the contracts that we all sign are, yes, we're going to use this on our social media.
You're giving them credit for it as well, where it was
Yeah,
and where
of course.
you were.
And
And
this is the marketing that they want, right? They want people to see their event. They want to try to increase their, the number of spectators and dancers that are going to be there next year. And seeing what's going on at a powwow is the best way you can market it.
right. And one of these days, maybe what I'll do is a episode on live streaming as a side hustle. Anybody who wants to gain a lot of followers in a short period of time can get that through paid ads, through boosting a post. But followers built that way are typically not engaged. What can we do to promote real engagement with and among our community members?
I'll tell you one thing that we do and have been doing it for years, and it works really well for us. And when I say this, a lot of people that are in the marketing world kind of cringe,
Okay.
but it works. And there's a couple of caveats, and I'll grab. So I have been running giveaways every month for years now, and so this is one of our prizes. This is a Pendleton blanket, a wool Pendleton blanket. They have a ton of different designs. This one was designed by a native artist. Beautiful designs and colors and patterns that our audience identifies with. Pendleton blankets are really synonymous in the powwow world. Everybody uses them, has them. And we also work with a company called 8th Generation, who is a Native American owned blanket company. We work with them as well. And those are always our prizes. And that resonates with our audience. That attracts people in our audience, as opposed to, like, I've done some giveaways where we give away an iPad or a gift card.
Oh, I see.
That doesn't attract people in your sphere, right?
Yeah.
So when you find a prize that works for your audience and you know it's going to attract your audience, giveaways are a great way. And you can run some ads or whatever promotions to kind of get that giveaway out there and to see more people to see it. But for me, that has been an incredible way to draw in more people outside of that are already following you.
Awesome. Tell us about one of the most successful times that you've did that. What were you giving away and what did you do and what was it
Yeah.
for?
And the biggest one we've done so far is we celebrated our 25th anniversary. And this was just a couple of years ago. We gave away 25 Pendleton blankets. So
Oh,
these
wow.
blankets range anywhere from $100 to some of the nice ones, big, large ones are $350. We gave away 25 Pendleton blankets for our 25th anniversary. That one was really amazing. Every year we do one during Native American Heritage Month called Explore Native, where I challenge our followers to dig a little deeper into the culture. And we kind of, I write a long email sequence for that contest. So you get an email every day that will challenge you to go and learn something new. This year, we're going to run it from October 1st through probably December 10th. It's going to be a longer one. That one we always partner with 8th Generation, that company I was talking about up in Seattle.
Okay.
And it does great. You know, it's not only does it engage our followers and get them into seeing more of our content every year,
Yes.
but it is an easy way to have some kind. It's an easy gateway for people that aren't familiar with us to come in, see that it's a giveaway about Native American Heritage Month.
Yes.
And then they get into this email sequence and they're going to learn an absolute ton.
Fun. And what would they need to do in order to win?
Mostly I use a piece of software called Viral Sweep. And so when you put in your email address, that's always the base. Again, email is our core. When you subscribe to the newsletter, you're entered. And it's a random draw at the end for the prizes. And Viral Sweep helps me do the randomization. But then we give them other ways to enter and get more, put your name in the hat more times, right? So we give them tasks. And then the Explore Native that I was talking about that was going to run October, November. In some of those emails, I'll actually say, hey, if you want to go read the whole article, here's a link. When you read the article, I'll give you a code at the bottom of the article that you can then enter and get more entries. So again, it's just this way of keeping people engaged and really, they want to go and enter that contest every day and get more entries. And it's a great way to, again, expose our existing readers and subscribers, but bring in new people and show them all the rich content we have.
And in terms of that email sequence, once they have subscribed, their name's in the hat, so to speak, and then through that sequence, each time you're offering them yet one more way to get an additional entry in.
Yeah.
For example, reading this article.
One may be where I ask them a question. So it may be, hey, what native creators are you following on TikTok? Send me your favorites, and then I'll give you the bonus code. So I use these bonus codes as a way to make sure we're getting that interaction and responses.
Is that something set up through Viral Suite, right?
Viral Sweep allows me to enter in the bonus codes. So I'll use, Excel spreadsheet and generate 1,000 different random numbers. And then you can put that in the software.
Right.
And so every time that somebody puts in a bonus code, it verifies that it's actually on the list that we provided and it gives them the credit for it.
Yes. But in your email, when you said, so somebody sends you the native creator they're following on TikTok, is that manual for you or that's all automated as well?
It comes to my inbox and I reply to it.
Okay.
Now I use a tool called Text Expander. So I'll write those email responses ahead of time so that I can quickly respond to people. But yes, it's coming through my inbox and I'm doing those.
So it's semi-automated.
Yeah, semi-automated as much as possible.
And how does it work with, say, for example, the blanket providers? Are you buying them at wholesale cost or they're giving you X number to work with through the promotion? How does that work?
Yeah. And that's something that I encourage. If people are going to try the giveaway model, find vendors that provide these kind of prizes. I've been very lucky to establish relationships with both of these companies. And so for like the 25 Pendleton contest, I worked with them. They were able to give me wholesale pricing. They provided several for me.
Yes.
And then they provided the ones that was over their budget. They gave me wholesale pricing to buy the rest. So most of the time they're sending us the blankets and providing them. But when we go over and above, then we work out some deals. But yeah, right. These are all provided by the companies.
Again, because you've built up that size of the community over the years that they're getting some tremendous exposure through that.
Right.
So in some cases, you could charge them.
Yeah, we'll see.
What's the most common mistake that you've seen that stalls or impedes the growth of a community, or maybe mistakes that people make?
You know, I'll go back to again, community is not a Facebook group. And I think so many people believe that they have to start that from the beginning. And so they create these Facebook groups that sit dormant and empty.
Mm,
Um, and so when somebody does join, it feels like this empty place. It's not inviting. There's nothing going on. I think it's really important, again, going back to use your email to build that community first, build and get them, from that cold, not knowing you to,
yes.
and turn them into a fan first. Then you can kind of get them to do other things. But I think that's a really common mistake, is trying to use, well, not just Facebook group, or it's Circle or Discord or any of these other things. It's, thinking that you have to put them all into one platform. And I don't think you should start there. I think you should start in a place where you can engage with them.
Right.
And maybe a Facebook page is another good tool before you go to the group, because Facebook pages are a little more public and easy for people to find. But yeah, that's a mistake I see a lot of people make.
But your recommendation then would be to focus on the email list. You can interact with people one-on-one, and then through that too, see where other opportunities to gather might occur based
Right.
on the demographic of your people and what they're asking.
Right. If you like in my emails, I like to ask, I don't do it every time, but I ask a lot of questions when I send out newsletters, and you'll get responses, and you'll find out quickly. So one of the Facebook groups we have now is about genealogy. I am not a genealogy expert at all. That's not a group I engage with every day, but we have that as a resource because so many people were asking about it. So here is a place for you to go and interact and ask these questions in a safe environment. That's one group we keep, pretty tight closed, because people are sharing information in there.
Yes.
But so many people wanted that information. So here it is, here's a place for you to go do that. Same thing, another Facebook group we created over time is that buy, sell, trade group. So many people wanted a place to, sell their earrings or necklaces or whatever. And so online, instead of just at a powwow setting up a table.
Yes.
So we provided that to them, right? It's another service that you find out over time is this is something people want.
Right. But start with that core website, core email. I really liked your suggestion too about asking questions in the newsletter, in the email, because so often we think about sending out an email to our list in terms of here's all this information for you.
Right.
It sounds like you're doing that, but then you're also inviting that feedback, that communication.
So take my weekly email that I send out. I first of all say I love sequences better than weekly emails or broadcast messages. I think sequences and segmenting your list, you can engage a whole lot better. But on our weekly broadcast, I have a virtual assistant that writes the email for me, takes and says, here are the articles that we published this week. Here are the powwows that are upcoming. Here are some things, that we featured. But at the top is where I'll write an introduction, and maybe I'll say what I was doing this week, or, if we just took a trip, like we were up in Alaska, and we shared a lot of content about that. Maybe I'll say something about that. But that's where I'll ask questions and engage with the readers. And that's the best part, right? That's where I get to be myself and put those kind of messages out there.
Yes.
And yeah, and that's where I get the responses and know that people are actually reading it because I'm getting replies and continuing these conversations.
And what kind of questions would you be asking? What are some examples?
I'll ask things like, we did one, right now, the giveaway we're doing right now is a back to school special. And so in some of the emails recently, I've asked, like, are your kids starting back to school down here in the South? Some of our kids started like August 1st. When are your kids starting back? Are you doing any last minute powwow trips before school starts? Those kind of things. Or, what were the highlights of your summer? Did you go anywhere this summer? What was the great trip? We just got back from Alaska. Where did you go? And like before our Alaska trip, we had never been before. I asked the audience, hey, have you been to Alaska? What kind of tips would you recommend? Having a hard time packing and getting everything. We're in the South. We don't have a lot of warm clothes, so we're having to pack in layers. And, what do you suggest? And I got tons of responses. And, take this tour, go see this place, or go to this restaurant. Yeah.
Great. And you are personally responding to those?
Yes.
Which I think is the other key.
Yes. Yeah. Email marketing, it's a conversation. And yes, so many people think of it as just shouting at your audience. These broadcast messages, you're just shooting out content at them. I look at it as the part of the community, right? And this is just another way for me to extend the conversation.
And when you're writing, to write from that mindset as well, just like
Yes.
in a voiceover, even though you could be talking to thousands or millions, if when this is broadcast, you're actually in the mindset of you're talking to one person. That'll come through in your writing as well.
Yeah. And that's what I said at the beginning is we have to have that mindset of interacting as community first. And it does change everything you do. And it changes the way that you put out content.
Your decision making.
Mm-hmm.
Huh. Well, if you were starting over with Powwows, is there something you'd do differently, or what would you do differently?
I would definitely start my email list sooner.
Okay.
I mean, I've been doing this a long time. So starting the email list later in the process than I should have, we still have been able to grow it
Yes.
just because of the time. But yeah, definitely start that. I would start that sooner. Also, getting help and getting more people involved is something I would do sooner. Did so much of it as a side hustle while working a full-time job. I wish I would have known more about some of these resources. I mean, of course, back in the 90s and early 2000s, we didn't have things like Fiverr and Upwork and
Virtual assistants
and everything else. But yeah, definitely nowadays getting help using these tools that we have. Yes.
Yeah. Well, is there something I should have asked you about building community that I haven't yet?
It's a great question. I mean, I'll just to talk a little bit more about something I mentioned as far as the segments and sequences.
Yes.
We were talking about know your audience and figure out who they are, what they want. And I think if you're starting email now, I think the best place to start is not figuring out what you're going to send everybody each week. I think that can come later. I think that you need to build your list focusing on, like if you're a recipe blogger, let's build an automated sequence of 5 or 10 messages that are centered around your holiday recipes. And so we can put an opt-in on the site that says, hey, are you looking for my best tips, tricks, and holiday recipes? Subscribe now, and I will send you a whole series of messages. And you can use those. Again, we're not going to be just shouting holiday recipes at them.
Yes.
We're going to use these 5 or 10 emails in this automated series to engage with them and to ask questions and to talk to them. Hey, what's your family's favorite recipe? Is there something that you cook every week? Put that in the first email, right?
Yes.
Get a response from them and then start that conversation. Those kinds of things, thinking about what kind of content you can put in a sequence and series that's going to, again, connect with that audience better. Those are the places I would start. And I think that's where email can be so powerful as a community tool.
Right. And use that, particularly that first email sequence when somebody signs up, as an opportunity for them to get to know you more on a personal level, you're saying.
Right.
Yeah. Here's my favorite, what's yours type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I love that idea. What's the best way for our listeners to connect with you, Paul?
First, I want to invite people, if you're interested in powwows, or if you've never been before, please go check out powwows.com. There are powwows happening in all 50 states and most provinces in Canada. And so there's one close to you, go check it out. Or you can go to powwows.com/powwows near me, and I'll send you an email, a series of emails that'll help you find powwows near you. And we were just talking about that. But if you're looking to, level up your business by building community and engaging with your followers better, please come over to paulgowder.com. I'd love to talk with you and help you do that.
Excellent. And we'll make sure that those links are in the show notes.
Yeah.
So what's your best tip to inspire others to start or grow their side hustle?
As someone who had a side hustle for 25 years before I was able to kind of make this a full-time thing, remember that this is a marathon, not a sprint. Don't compare yourselves to others. Don't try to measure your success based on, you're not going to be the next Mr. Beast. Let's go ahead and get that out of the way.
Okay.
Right? You're not going to be that. You're going to be your true, authentic self. Be that. Put out the content in your voice and being you, and you will attract and grow the community that connects with you the best, and go from there.
That's where the magic happens, is you being you, and then you'll connect with the people that are in resonance with that.
Right.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Paul, for your insights on what it takes to build a community and the benefits of that too, to the side hustle. and for being today's Side Hustle hero.
Thank you. I appreciate the time.
I like the way Paul gets creative when he's running a contest by incentivizing people to become even more engaged with his content. One example he used was asking, "What native creators are you following on TikTok? Send me your favorites and I'll give you the bonus code," which of course provides more entries to win. Seems to me like both a fun and effective way to interact with the community. Also, I really appreciate Paul's attitude towards the content that he's putting out there. For example, his email marketing. He said it's a conversation, and yet so many people think of it as just shouting at your audience. You get emails like that, right? But he sees it as a way to, as he said, extend the conversation. I love that perspective, that attitude. I'm in the process of crafting a regularly scheduled email that'll highlight the best tips of our most recent side hustle heroes on the show and a few other valuable content pieces in there. I'm going to take a page from Paul's playbook. You'll recall he has a virtual assistant write their weekly broadcast, which includes links to articles and info about powwows that are upcoming. But at the top is where he writes the introduction. He'll say what he was doing that week, or he'll pose questions to really encourage that connection and conversation. After this episode with Paul, I'm going to make sure that the first section of my email broadcast is something personal and conversational. So if you're on my mailing list, you can tell me how I'm doing. If you're not, don't miss out on my best tips and tricks for side hustle success. Head on over to sidehustlehero.com. Well, that's a wrap for today. In the description, you'll find links to the sites Paul mentioned, as well as for my book, The Way Success Works, and my course, Turn Your Thoughts into Wanted Things, and a link back to the full show notes at our website, sidehustlehero.com. If you're enjoying what you're seeing in this podcast, it would be so appreciated if you would take a moment and add your comment, share the episode, and please subscribe. It'll let others know that there's valuable content here to help them start or grow their side hustle. Thanks for watching, and hustle on.